Okay, so I'm here live with Ryan Wardell from StartupSauce. Hi, Ryan, welcome to the chat.
Hi yourself, Peter. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me on.
Great stuff. You're welcome. Okay, so obviously I know you from networking in the SaaS community, in my SaaS Facebook group, and having known you for maybe a year or two now. I got to know more about your community, StartupSauce. So you run a community, which is a membership group for software founders. Do you want to tell us just first a little bit about you know who you are and what you do with StartupSauce?
Sure. So real quick intro. I used to be I sold my previous startup in 2012 and kind of drifted around a little while doing the whole digital nomad thing for a while, and ended up, my whole background's in growth. So I used to run a digital agency based in London, from Australia originally, but was in London for a few years. And we were working with a lot of companies that had a lot of dumb money. And we were trying to make something fly that really shouldn't. So at the same time, we started meeting all these SaaS founders who were outside that whole kind of, VC ecosystem. They had real businesses, they had customers who loved what they were doing. So we turned that into a community. And so today, StartupSauce, so it's like barbecue sauce, but StartupSauce. StartupSauce is a community for SaaS founders based outside of Silicon Valley. And so there's sort of a couple of things that we do slightly differently to other groups out there. But the main problem that we solve is that a lot of the information that's out there, a lot of the thought leadership, a lot of the people, a lot of the influencers, perhaps aside from yourself, Peter, it's very Silicon Valley centric. So when you read something and it's like, when you raise a $2 million pre-seed round, okay, that makes sense if you're in Silicon Valley. It doesn't make sense everywhere else. So our community is really a place where SaaS founders from outside Silicon Valley can come and network, meet other founders, bounce ideas around, get help and feedback and support, ask for introductions, and generally help each other grow their businesses more effectively.
Great. I love it. Yeah, you're quite active, I noticed, in communities and groups. You get to know a lot of people, a lot of SaaS founders. You make intros, and I always think that they're really valuable activities. What I wanted to ask you is, there are a lot of SaaS companies that are trying to build communities around their product, around their business, because it just really is a bit of a value add for them. And I wanted to ask if you had any tips for SaaS companies who are trying to build a community of their own. What can they do to grow an engaged community?
So I've got two quick insights on that, just from what we've seen with StartupSauce. The first one is when you build a community, you get to set the tone of that community. And what I mean by that is when you do something, people kind of realize, that's what I can use this community for. So you've got a lot of control of in terms of like what the direction of that community looks like. In our case, we started off with a very, very small community. We started off with 4 people when we launched it. So we thought this is not going to be a particularly interesting Slack channel. So why don't we get on and do a phone call? And now we do mastermind calls, and that's a big core part of the community. So for anyone who is thinking about building a community, and that's a really, really effective marketing channel, I think that's really important, particularly in 2022. Think about the tone of the community, the kinds of people that you want in that community, the kind of behaviors that you want to encourage, and the kind of behaviors you want to discourage too. Because if you shape that right from the beginning, they become self-reinforcing. So now we see, we kind of created this positive feedback loop. So we jump in and offer to help and make introductions. And now all of our other members have kind of cottoned onto that. They receive some help. So now they pay it forward and want to jump in and provide help and introductions. And you'll see really, really busy people writing detailed feedback, offering to help out, get on calls and give each other advice and stuff. It's awesome. The other bit of advice that I'd give around building communities is to be really careful about your initial members and who you let in. So for example, in our case, we got on a call, and effectively a screening call. We got on a call with everyone before they were allowed to join the community. Now, most people we allowed in. There were a couple of bad apples that we kind of said, maybe this is not the group for you, but most people we let in. But it gave us an opportunity to understand them, what they were looking to get out of a community. And I think some people just kind of launch a community and don't really think about You know, the thing about communities is that people who find value in communities end up joining lots of them, and they get different things out of different communities. So rather than assuming what value they're going to get out of your community, it's often better to just ask them, hey, what other communities are you a part of? What do you get out of that? And what kind of value can we provide that you're not getting somewhere else? And I think that's a really valuable exercise to do early on.
Yeah, hey, they're really neat points. That sounds so important. It's almost like you're building the culture of this community and the environment, the steer for it, you know, what the topics are and why people go there, and that shapes, you know, who they refer and who they invite and who they connect with and how they do that as well. Sounds like really good advice. What's generally involved? Like, I see a lot of people starting communities and they may not know exactly what's involved, or they may underestimate the requirement. And I just wondered if you could share a bit of light on what's involved in running a community, moderating, keeping people engaged, and providing value.
So let me share a quick insight about engagement, because this is something that I've learned a lot over the past probably 18 months. So a lot of, when you read about engagement and how to keep communities engaged, a lot of people push you to, you know, run lots of polls and post lots of stuff and just be constantly poking people for engagement. Now that probably works in a lot of cases, but you know, our audience of SaaS founders based outside of Silicon Valley. These are busy people, and this is one community amongst many that they've joined. So what we found when we actually went through and analyzed all the posts, all the activity that was going on, what got the most engagement, and it wasn't when we posted, you know, blog posts or content, and it wasn't, you know, when we ran polls or guest speakers or anything like that. The thing that got the most engagement is when someone had a really juicy, meaty problem and they needed advice from other SaaS founders. And so what we kind of looked at that, we thought, okay, well, maybe we should scale back, you know, us prodding people all the time. So it's a little bit quiet, and sometimes you'll see that there'll be even days will go by without a huge amount of activity. But as soon as someone brings a really juicy problem to the table, everyone will pile in and want to help out. And I think part of that is setting the tone, like I spoke about before. But part of that is kind of us recognizing that, like, the value in this community is that when you've got a problem, there are a bunch of other smart SaaS founders that will jump in and help you out. And so what we do to encourage that is we just tag a bunch of people that we know a bit about that topic and are able to jump in and help. So I think that's really useful in terms of engagement. The other thing too is you need to recognize that people will engage with groups in different ways. And every time we send out a survey or something, you get 100 different answers. So that can be complicated. But we run mastermind calls, and some people find them really valuable, and some people say, you know what, I'm not interested in that at all. I'm here for the Slack group. We're going to launch accountability partners and start doing that this year. And some people have said, look, I need more personal focus, but I don't really want to commit to a mastermind group. Some people say, hey, look, I'm really here because I love, you know, the calls that you do with guest speakers or outside experts. I love the kind of internal ones that we don't share publicly, where people will talk about, you know, some tactics that they're using, or something that's worked really well for them in the past. And I love that because we don't allow direct competitors in the group. So you get some insights there that you wouldn't get in other places. And that's the main value they get out of joining the community. So people will get different things from joining the community. And I think it's good to just kind of be aware of what different people are getting in terms of value, and trying to think about what you can do to enhance that.
Yeah, that's great. Hey, if there's anyone interested in joining a community like yours, where can they find out more about what you're doing at StartupSauce, and how can they join?
So we actually kept a fairly low profile for a little while, but if you head over to startupsauce.com, so it's like SAUC, like barbecue sauce, startupsauce.com. There'll be a form there that you fill out to sign up. Just to be aware, we are a bit selective about who we let in. So you must be a SaaS founder, must be based outside of Silicon Valley, and you must be making at least $5,000 a month in revenue. We've got a lot of people who are doing much more than that, but that's kind of the minimum sort of entry requirements, and that helps keep the discussion focused on growing a business rather than idea validation. So yeah, startupsauce.com is where you should go. Super stuff.
Well, I'll include a link for people in the group, anyone who wants to join, anyone listening who wants to check that out. And great, yeah, thanks for joining us on this chat. Is there anything else you wanted to share before we wrap up?
No, I just want to say thank you for having me. And also, like, I've learned a lot from the SaaS Founders Build and Scale group as well. So I've been a member. This is one of the first groups that I joined years and years and years ago,
Awesome.
when I was getting into the SaaS scene. So congratulations on building an awesome group, and you got a bunch of really cool people in here as well.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thank you. No, it's been great having you and getting to know you, having you in the group, and other people, you know, like you who engage and connect. And there's always, you know, other communities growing, you know, new people joining, influencers, new companies. It's always nice to see the kind of community grow within the SaaS Founders group, but also just broader than that, because there's such a big growing network that we've got in SaaS right now. So great to connect. Thanks for joining me, Ryan, and we'll see you around in the group and in StartupSauce too.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Peter.
Thank you.